Hour 2.
From ABC News, around the world and into your home, the stories that touch your life. This is 2020 with Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer, Sam Donaldson, Connie Chung, Charles Gibson, and Hugh Dowd. Tonight, an urgent search for answers.
Close to 30 different explosive devices were found.
The bloodbath at Columbine High, a tragedy of staggering proportions. 2020 has uncovered disturbing new details about the suspects. Were they part of a nationwide trend? Angry teenagers obsessed with Hitler and the bizarre underground rock singer Marilyn Manson. Death arrived at Columbine in black trench coats and ski masks. Two boys dressed in their eerie black clothes, laughing as they killed their classmates. Who were these two teenagers, filled with so much hate, eager to inflict so much pain? Why did they do it?
I think they're saying, look, here we are. We've killed so many people that we're going to be never forgotten.
And today in Littleton, tears for the dead, prayers for the survivors, and parents grieving for the boy who never came home.
No one wants to, go and identify your child.
It's going to be one of the hardest things in my life, but I have to do it.
Tonight, the latest on the investigation. How did this happen? Could it happen again? High school terror. That story tonight, April 21st, 1999.
Let's see, what's your favorite day? It's Friday, and these are Friday's Chop House platters. Thick, juicy Chicago-style cuts of all your favorites, still sizzling from the grill.
I love Chicago.
The Chop House platters at Fridays.
That was good.
This is an extraordinary little device, this is. It places your data on a seamless global network, the only global network owned by a single company. Suddenly, Paris, London, Brussels, Dusseldorf are 60 milliseconds away. 60 milliseconds. Now, don't you wish you could travel like that? Be careful what you wish for. OnNet from MCI WorldCom.
To steam, clean, and sanitize ceramic tile, linoleum, marble, sealed hardwoods, and more, just add water.
And the steam cuts right through dried spills.
Then just drop the magic cloth in the washer and store it away. The Enviro Steamer by Eureka.
For Dan and Lisa, it just clicked. So they loaded up their Ford Expedition and got back to doing what they loved. Answering the call of the wild. I lost them. And they unleashed a beast of their own. That big 5.4-liter Triton V8.
Gotcha.
And you thought Little Red Riding Hood got a close look. Ford Expedition. Built Ford tough.
From ABC News, High School Terror. And now, Diane Sawyer and Sam Donaldson.
Good evening and welcome to 2020 Wednesday. Tonight, we join the community of Littleton, Colorado, and millions of families across America in trying to explore the causes and consequences of the deadliest rampage ever carried out in an American school. As you know by now, 15 people died at Columbine High School, 1 teacher, 12 students, and the 2 young men suspected of the killings. And tonight, the families of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold each released a statement, and we'll tell you what they said in just a moment. But earlier this evening, oh, wretch like me. This was the scene in downtown Denver, where civic and religious leaders led thousands in a candlelight vigil to remember the young victims. Sam?
Diane, as families grieve for their children, we've been out asking a critical question. What was this strange group called the Trenchcoat Mafia? In the past 24 hours, we've discovered new and sometimes startling information about the suspects, their motives, and the warning signs that everyone seems to have missed. We begin now with Tom Jarrell.
A close look at these recent snapshots
only compounds the mystery over the two high school seniors who had their day of infamy before they took their own lives. Dylan Klebold, handsome in a formal black tux, attending the spring prom, just like the other kids, without his black trench coat. And Eric Harris, in a relaxed pose snapped by a friend, looking fresh-faced, thin, and as innocent as a choir boy. The faces of young men who today, Sheriff John Stone suggested, may have been part of a larger, more complex day of carnage.
We had a tremendous amount of explosive devices in there, whether two people could carry all that stuff in there. The other scenario could be that maybe some of that stuff was hidden in the schools.
The police found a handgun, semi-automatic rifle, 2 sawed-off shotguns, and a wide assortment of lethal homemade bombs as they searched the school grounds, the boys' cars, and their homes.
We had 3 different types of devices. We had some small devices about 6 to 8 inches. We had pipe bombs that were about 1 foot long. We had some bombs that were made with a timer device and a cylinder about yay big. There was a propane cylinder, and those things could be very devastating. And those particular cylinders also had the devices attached to them to spray nails.
As juveniles, the two had a minor brush with the law and performed community service to clear themselves. Among the kids at school today, 2020 found a teenage girl who said her life was threatened by them in a letter years ago. Worried, she asked us not to identify her. And a neighborhood pal who faced their guns and lived, Brooks Brown, told the Denver Post of Harris, he did it because he hated people. He loved killing people. He liked that idea. The story becomes even more perplexing when you see where they came from. If there's a worry-free paradise, it might look something like this. An expensive avenue of well-cared-for homes with blooming spring flowers. But at the cul-de-sac sits a home where there was plenty to be concerned about, as Eric Harris worked in his garage with Dylan Klebold.
He was over all weekend, and every once in a while you just hear some noises coming out of the garage.
What kind of noises?
Just like saws being run or glass breaking.
Sound like they were building things or working on things?
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe they're just working on a school project or something.
Right. Their school project appears to have involved homemade explosive devices. When police searched the house after the killings, they found materials that could be used to make bombs and a computer with a well-known website. Kids around the neighborhood can recite it.
It was www.trenchcoats.com.
Not hard to locate, and perhaps revealing. ABC News has obtained this member profile from America Online for an Eric Harris of Littleton, Colorado. AOL removed this hours after the shooting, saying only it's cooperating with the FBI. But a knowledgeable source says the profile appears to be authentic. In it, Harris describes himself as a fan of the computer game Doom, one of the most violent computer games you can buy. The player gets to annihilate a non-stop stream of enemies. Harris also offers this as his personal quote, "Shut up and shoot it. Quit whining. It's just a flesh wound. Kill 'em all." It's Doom terminology, but raises the question, did virtual reality contribute to the real thing? And what was the real thing? There are still normal, law-abiding kids who knew Harris and Klebold and felt they were just as normal as Mom's apple pie.
The only thing that made them the outcasts was the trench coats, but I mean, if you really got to know the guys, they were pretty nice people.
Columbine High School seniors, Dan Holsey, Chad Laughlin, and Tim Castle, played games with them, bowled, and socialized with them, snapping these shots at the recent prom. They saw no sign of any concern or danger. You saw him at the prom and played around with a flash bulb?
Yeah,
What was that about?
He shot the camera into my eyes, and I just did it back. It was just,
Dueling flash bulbs.
Yeah, we're just having fun.
Friends say the two liked rebellious shock rocker Marilyn Manson. No surprise, since his outrageous image has attracted millions of young fans. But another set of pals knew that their taste went much further. Their friends say they listen to a kind of music called German metal. This CD from a group called Rammstein. The first line of one of its songs now seems like a chilling prediction. It says, "You in the schoolyard, I ready for killing."
The only way to describe it is that they had two different lives that they lived, and nobody knew about their other one.
On that day, Tim looked down the barrel of a gun, but Dylan didn't pull the trigger.
One of, I think it was Dylan, popped his head up, went like that with his gun. He had time to shoot, but
You?
yeah, he had.
You saw him, he saw you.
Yeah, I think that he didn't shoot because he knew it was me.
As authorities investigate, they're reluctant to attribute a motive for the mass murder. But author and terrorist expert Dr. Carl Rasky has heard of the evidence and reached a firm opinion.
Well, we have to look at the grenades, the bombs. I mean, these people, these young people were very well organized. They executed what they did. This is a terrorist act. We've got something in this country that this is a warning about. And as I've said, that this situation could happen again and again and again. It's already happened before. It just gets worse each time.
As we said earlier, there are statements tonight from the two families whose sons police say carried out the attack and then killed themselves. And here's what they had to say. Dylan Klebold's parents apologized to the families of the victims, and they said, like the rest of the country, they are struggling to understand why this happened. And from the Harris family, they said they are mourning the death of Eric, their youngest son, but they wanted to express their, quote, heartfelt sympathy to the families of the victims and the community for this senseless tragedy. And they asked for prayers for everyone touched by what they called these horrible events. And now Tom Jarrell is standing by in Littleton. And Tom, I think it's a question on everyone's mind. As you talked to neighbors and friends of the two boys, was there any sense that others were involved, or did they seem to be alone?
Diane, I came prepared to see this as a couple of teenagers that went off the charts and did this terrible thing. But being here today, seeing the location itself and talking to people, there are so many questions that are going to have to be answered. Specifically, the bombs apparently were assembled in the Harris garage by two suspected neo-Nazis working all weekend, making a lot of noise so much a kid next door heard. Where were the parents? What's going on when something like this is happening and a kid next door suspects something is up? Also, all of this equipment they had to assemble and to get ready, the extensive weapons they had. I'm not a conspiracy buff, but I'll tell you the authorities are going to have their hands full explaining this in terms of the overall pattern of what motivated them, how do they do it, and who else might be to blame, certainly.
All right, Tom, our thanks to you and for the report. And we want to ask more about this issue, this question of local law enforcement. Sam?
Yes, Diane. Joining us now from Littleton is the sheriff of Jefferson County, Colorado, John Stone. Sheriff Stone must not have had any sleep at all since this began. Thank you for joining us, Sheriff.
Well, actually, I got an hour and a half last night, so other than that, we're doing 2 days straight.
Well, bring us up to date on the state of the condition inside the school. Have all the bodies been removed? Have all the pipe bombs been defused?
I was down to the command post about 45 minutes ago, and we had the bulk of the bodies out at that time. They will all be out tonight. The bomb squad, I think, has the bulk of the school swept as far as the ordnance, so we'll be in on a massive crime scene detail for the next couple days, trying to wrap up.
Any more incidents in defusing the bombs? Did any of them go off inside the school?
No, the one last night was a real wake-up for everybody, though.
Sheriff, what about the thing we've been talking to Tom Jarrell about? In your investigation so far, have you found that others were involved?
Well, we don't know what to expect at this time. We have a lot of ordnances in there, a lot of pipe bombs, a lot of other types. We have 3 basic types of explosive devices in there, close to 30 in all. And the subjects had 4 weapons around their bodies when the bodies were located, and trying to bring 3 handguns, or 2 shotguns and 1 automatic rifle up, as well as a pistol, and carry those bombs really leads us to suspicion as how that could be accomplished, unless there were some of those bombs that were stored someplace in the lockers of the school. There were bombs thrown at students when they did their initial raid, though, so we've got a lot of pieces of the puzzle.
Well, Sheriff, yesterday I think you took into custody 3 or 4 others. Are they still in custody? Are you still talking to them?
They're not in custody. They are friends of these people, but we will be re-interviewing the numerous students who are involved in this and trying to find some common threads and to see if there was anybody other than those two subjects seen actually in possession of handguns or of the bombs.
Thank you very much, Sheriff John Stone. We appreciate you joining us. Long day. When we come back, were these boys part of a larger movement? The sheriff's going to investigate. There are angry teenagers turning up in other towns. They are wearing black. They're fascinated with death. They're listening to violent music. They call themselves goths, and police say several extreme followers have attacked and killed before. That story in a moment.
Nature made me a person of many parts. Nature made me determined to make all of them last. And thankfully, to help, there are premium quality nature-made vitamins and herbs, like vitamin E, which research shows can help keep my heart healthy. There's no stopping me, because nature made me.
This vehicle is a lot like an all-weather coat. I mean, you know, a tough one. It's ready for the elements, ready for any situation. But there's a surprise. When you go to put this thing on, oh, that's actually pretty smooth. There's fur in here. This is comfortable. That's the experience of looking at a Pathfinder and then getting into it. You're in a whole different world inside, and it's one of comfort and luxury.
Paul is shining shoes. Someday Paul will be a famous chef. He will invent a new wonder food. See? Garden Burger, the burger with no meat. Uh-oh. Paul's testing them on truck drivers and construction workers. Surprise! They are tasty and good. Now Paul's famous. He's on TV. He is loved by millions, especially cows. Discover Garden Burger. All natural, really tasty, end of story. Because eating good just got great.
In the financial world, to survive, you must keep on the move. It is not a world for the hesitant or the timid. Sometimes, to defend against larger, fiercer competitors, your best choice is merger or acquisition. But beware, lest your careful, well-planned strategy should result instead in failure or doom. In these troubled waters, experience, knowledge, and size are your best allies. If you're considering strengthening your company through merger or acquisition, think first of First Union. Wherever you plan to go, we have been there before. Come to the mountain called First Union. Or if you prefer, the mountain will come to you.
The only thing better than the practice.
Is this true? Can I get life? Tell me!
An all-new practice.
You told me that I was facing perjury.
An outrageous charge.
Somebody was murdered. Somebody's gonna pay for it.
Helen, are you okay?
I don't know if I can do this anymore.
You could destroy yourself with this.
An all-new practice. ABC Sunday, 10/9 Central.
Who are you, Cleopatra? Are you someone I can trust?
I am Egypt.
Cleopatra, Sunday, May 23rd.
Well, since yesterday, we've heard a lot of speculation about the two suspects and their group, the Trenchcoat Mafia, with police saying the boys may have been part of a dark, underground national phenomenon known as the Gothic movement, and that some of these goths may have killed before. Brian Ross has been investigating.
What they're thinking is totally irrelevant to a normal person's thoughts.
It's what's known as the Gothic movement, violet and black.
Black relates to the dark side. So Gothics usually dress in all black. They a lot of times put white makeup on their face to appear dead.
A growing and to many troubling trend in suburban America.
I wasn't totally surprised that it happened in Colorado finally. All these things are, to me, are warning signals that something's wrong.
And for the last 7 years, Steve Ricker of the Denver Police Department Gang Unit has been trying to spread the word of how the so-called Gothic movement has helped fuel a new kind of teenage gang, white suburban gangs built around a fascination with the grotesque and with death. His most recent appearance was before students at Columbine High School in Littleton.
Just 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Just 3 or 4 weeks ago. And you're speaking about gang violence?
About gangs and gang violence, how to recognize gang activity.
And Ricker, in a telephone hookup between Denver and New York, says school officials later told him among those who may have been in his audience were members of the so-called trench coat mafia, for whom the black coats are what colors are for the Bloods and the Crips of the big cities.
So like the colors of the Crips and the Bloods, the black trench coat is that same kind of emblem?
To them, I think that was the common denominator. That showed everybody at that school that these 10 kids belong together. That's their group. And don't bother to try to join us because we're there and we don't want to be accepted by you.
And Rickard says while the extent of the killing yesterday at Columbine caught even him by surprise, it was not the first time members of such groups in the suburban Denver area had turned to violence. 2 years ago, another Columbine student, said to be part of the trench coat mafia, Robert Craig, killed his stepfather and then killed himself. And last year, in another prosperous Denver suburb, Lakewood, 46-year-old Eugene Riddle barely survived an attack by his teenage son, deeply involved in the Gothic movement.
I was stabbed in the chest, yes.
Okay, who stabbed you, sir?
Pull it out.
Sir, I don't want you to pull it out, okay?
Okay.
The knife is still in your chest?
What?
The knife is still in your chest?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to hang on for me, okay? Do not.
Okay, hurry. I'm not going to last too much longer.
Riddle's son David and his girlfriend were convicted on charges of attempted murder. They were proud, self-proclaimed members of the Gothic movement, and like the students involved in yesterday's shootings, focused on white extremism and hate.
And what was interesting to me about this kid, in his living room, he had about a 6-foot wooden end table that was carved with various signs, like anarchy signs and Nazi swastikas. He had written about killing somebody and plunging the knife in their body and letting the blood run over his hands and how that made him feel so fulfilled.
Where are those kinds of ideas coming from, do you think?
I think in his case, you can trace it right back to Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson is a man, once called Brian Warner, who combined the names Marilyn Monroe and Charles Manson for his stage name. His violent, controversial music performances have made him a prominent figure among goths, as they are known, a rebellious role model for the 90s.
There's kind of a cult that follows him, and I think that he was looked at him like a god.
For most goths, it's just an act, but apparently not for all.
In the Gothic movement, they have what's called the blood sports, where they're involved in self-mutilation in some cases. A lot of young females particularly slice themselves with razor blades. And don't ask me to explain that because I can't. I mean, I know that they're mixed up kids.
For me, the most important thing is that I express my
Immensely popular among disaffected, alienated white teenagers, Marilyn Manson talks of being picked on in school, of shooting BB guns at athletes, of embracing death. Featured on MTV recently, he talked about his own funeral.
In a perfect world, one that everyone would attend, and that there would be a bomb so that they would all die as well.
Manson, who was appearing tonight in Grand Rapids, Michigan, would not talk with 2020, but he has denied being a racist or a fascist. Outside the concert hall, his fans talked about the Gothic movement and what happened yesterday in Colorado.
I just think that they got sick of people just like making fun of them, and I think they had something mentally wrong with them.
And because I listen to Marilyn Manson, it doesn't make me a violent psychopath. It's going to go kill my family.
Now we're going to get blamed for a lot of reasons like this. People are going to start blaming the music. Blaming the music, blaming the clothes.
All Gothic young people are not the same. There's the Gothic scene where kids are just dressing the part, listening to the music. I bet you would be hard-pressed to find any suburban area in the nation who isn't affected somehow by suburban groups like the Gothic movement.
There have been a series of violent episodes around the country linked to teenagers who called themselves goths. Just last November in Burlington, Wisconsin, Police say 5 students with ties to a so-called goth group had planned to storm their high school heavily armed, take the principal hostage, and kill student and faculty targets. 2 of the students involved got scared, and the police became aware of the plot. Ron Jandura is the superintendent of schools in Burlington.
The students had targeted the building principal, the assistant principal, our police liaison officer, teacher, and each of the 5 participants had a personal list of students that they had also targeted. The sum total was approximately 20 people.
Later, in a confession, one of the students involved said the would-be targets were white students who they thought were acting too cool as if they were black.
Bigger wannabe kids, you know, they're upper class, middle class, you know, white kids in small town Wisconsin. Yo, what's up? And white chocolate.
With traditional gangs, their enemies are pretty well defined. With suburban groups, their enemies are not defined. I think everybody's their enemy. And I think anybody, not just the jocks wearing hats, or not just minority people, anybody who would get in their way, I think they potentially would kill.
As police officials throughout Denver and its suburbs today were consulting with Steve Rickard about what steps to take next, he says it is now clear to him that when he spoke 3 weeks ago at Columbine High School, the shooters were no doubt already planning their attack for April 20th, the birthday of Adolf Hitler.
I think that based on how complex the whole thing was, how it went down, I think it was being planned for many months.
And being planned by more than just 2?
I would think that it'd be hard for me to imagine that no other associate of these 2 suspects would have been aware.
And yet no one seemed to have picked up on the trenchcoat mafia as a real threat, including you, Sergeant.
Well, that's true. I think they're saying, look, this is, here we are. You're never going to forget us now. Now we're something. We're in history now. We've killed so many people that we're going to be never forgotten.
As we said earlier, Marilyn Manson says he's an artist and in no way a racist or a fascist. When we come back, today in Littleton, a town in tears, how will they ever be able to make sense of what happened?
Oh man, it's early. Did they test through to the router? We're merging 2 totally different bank networks. Gotta work seamlessly. Seamless. AT&T says it's ready to go. Either gonna be the hero today or hiding in the John, right? Hero. Yeah.
AT&T Net working to make your business succeed. Why do I rent from Enterprise? Very simple. No stress. They arrange to pick me up free, so I don't have to ask anyone for a ride. See? No stress.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
Before Hal came to LensCrafters, he never owned a pair of prescription sunglasses.
Figured I could buy with squinting.
I searched until I found a pair that really suited his face.
These are great.
And I know he loved our prices.
Ask for prescription sunglasses ready in about an hour at LensCrafters.
Based on reactions so far, we're so sure you'll love Kellogg's Nutri-Grain Twist bars, we'll give you your money back if you don't. Just send the bottom panel with the UPC barcode for a full refund. Guaranteed. How's that for a twist? Kellogg's Nutri-Grain Twists. Like them. You'll try them for your money back.
Grandpa?
Hey, boo-boo.
The new Volkswagen Jetta, completely redesigned to give you even more of that same old feeling.
There's a man. He looks just like me.
A stranger has come into Marty Stillwater's life, and he's stolen it.
Why do you look like me?
From best-selling author Dean Koontz.
I need my girls. I need them now.
That's not Daddy. That's the other one.
Stephen Baldwin and Oscar winner James Coburn. An ABC World premiere, Mr. Murder, Monday. The aftermath of tragedy, grief, and a nightmare remembered. Gripping eyewitness accounts and the lessons of too many school shootings, warning signs ignored. When 2020 continues after this from our ABC stations.
Hundreds gathered to remember and pray for the victims of the school massacre in Colorado. Good evening, I'm John Marley.
And I'm Kathy Marshall. Also at 11, there is new information about the 2 teens responsible for the massacre.
Also tonight, the mastermind behind the Grant High School robbery spree enters a plea. We'll have the stories on Channel 2 News at 11.
Load up on 12 packs of Corona for just $8.99 at AM/PM. Just remember to live with your needs.
Watch Bloomberg Business Reports mornings on Channel 2 News.
The Acura RL has distinctive styling to appeal to your elegant side. A performance-tuned suspension to satisfy your assertive side. And a sophisticated front and side airbag system to protect both sides. The 1999 RL from Acura. Lease the Acura RL for $4.99 a month.
Next time on AM Northwest, Dr. Ruth gives advice about love and pregnancy. Plus, learn how to make a wreath that keeps on growing tomorrow at 9. Dr. Ruth gives advice on your love life tomorrow at 9.
High school terror continues. And now, Sam Donaldson.
The day after a massacre, the sun came up, but nothing was the same in Littleton, Colorado, after 5 hours of terror at the hands of 2 young killers. Today there were tears for the dead, prayers for the survivors, and tales of horror to be shared with each other. Bill Ritter spent the day with the town in mourning.
Today, the profound shock gave way to profound sadness. It was a day for the students and parents of Littleton to assess and talk about the damage inflicted on their lives. It started this morning with a counseling service at a local church, and it continued throughout the day. This afternoon, the parents of one of the fallen students and the only black victim spoke out.
The only thing we can go by is the children that seen him when his demise came about.
I just want to get this straight. No one from the school has contacted you officially?
No.
No one from the police?
No.
No one from the sheriff's office?
No. And I have called every hospital that all the kids was taken to, and Isaiah, he wasn't in the hospitals.
Perhaps in an effort to placate the parents of the slain children, the sheriff finally released an official casualty count.
We have 15 fatalities.
The final death count is staggering. 15 dead, 22 wounded. All but 2 of the dead are teenagers. This kind of violence, often described as either unspeakable or unthinkable, has once again proven to be neither. The sedate suburb of Littleton has become the latest, least likely place for a school shooting. And tonight, its residents have been forced to deal with the deadliest incidents of teen-on-teen violence in American history. It began yesterday morning when 2 students, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, now universally described as social outcasts, made their way across the parking lot towards the school. Inside, from the lunchroom to the classrooms and offices to the school's library, people who may have never met Harris or Klebold were about to have the rest of their lives defined by them.
Hell. What I saw is hell. Never want to see it again.
Wearing masks and black trench coats and armed with shotguns, automatic handguns, and explosives, Harris and Klebold approached the school. pull the guns from under their jackets, and then open fire.
How many people did you see get hit by fire?
3 girls.
Meanwhile, Harris and Klebold move inside, sending bullets ricocheting off lockers and walls. They veer left into the cafeteria, where 900 or so students eating lunch try to escape.
The principal came running by, and he's like, get in the gym, get in the gym. He's like, hurry, run, like hell into the gym.
The gunshots and pipe bomb explosions should alert students and teachers to the danger, but many are just confused. Finally, as confirmed sightings spread quickly around campus, frantic students begin fleeing the buildings.
One of my fellow classmates ran upstairs and said, there's somebody with a gun, there's somebody with a gun.
But for every student that makes it safely outside, dozens of frightened kids remain trapped inside. 60 students take refuge in a small office next to the choir room. Matt Cornwell and Jacob Cram are among them.
Just really scared. Right when we got in there, we just kept hearing shots, shotguns, and we think bombs just shake.
The kids try to call the police, but all they get is a busy signal. Finally, after dozens of frantic calls, they reach emergency service workers and are told what they don't want to hear.
They said to barricade ourselves in there and be as quiet as we could be and just stay in there until they come and get us.
Just outside the office, Harris and Klebold are still on the move and now heading for the library, leaving a trail of wounded kids and teachers. By now, everyone on the first floor wants out, including those hit by gunfire.
On our way out, I saw one body in the cafeteria, and then I didn't really look at it, and we ran out, and we had to go through all this broken glass to get outside, and they had us run up to get away from the school, and there were 2 bodies laying there just on the ground, and
I couldn't believe they hadn't covered up the bodies.
But upstairs in the library, sophomore Joshua Lapp, one of the school's star baseball players, hears popping sounds and assumes they're harmless.
At first I thought it was just paintball guns or something to that consent. I didn't think it was real. I didn't think it was real weapons. I didn't think that happened at our school.
Moments later, a teacher bursts through the door and tells everyone to hide. But she's too late. Harris and Klebold are right behind her.
And she ran to the phone behind the library desk, and when they first walked in, that was the first person that the suspects shot at. And there was 2 shots with the shotgun, and that was the last we heard of it.
Joshua recognizes the killers as part of a school clique called the Trenchcoat Mafia, a small group of gun-loving students known for being anti-black, anti-Hispanic, and anti-jock.
We kind of joked around about it, yeah, they could do something like this. We never thought they would do it.
But they did.
After every person they shot, they were hooping and hollering. They acted like it was a football game or something, and they'd won.
Joshua believes they're looking for someone in particular.
They said, hey, look, there's that little nigger. 3 shots. Then one of them asked, is he dead? To pause, the other one said, yeah, he's dead.
What went through your mind as you heard that?
I knew exactly who that was, and I just couldn't believe it.
They kill 18-year-old Isaiah Scholes, who was just 3 weeks away from becoming one of the few blacks to ever graduate from Columbine High. Michael and Vonda are his parents.
Man, that's pathetic. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No child, black, white, or orange, yellow, should have to leave this earth like that.
At some point today, you're going to have to identify Isaiah's body. How hard is that going to be?
Oh, that's hard. It's hard. No one wants to, go identify your child.
Nobody. Oh, it's going to be one of the hardest things in my life to do. But I have to do it,
Out on the street during the assaults, local police also hear the shots coming from inside the library. The sheriff agonizes about what to do.
We had officers that tried to get in there, and they're driven back by gunfire.
Finally, the SWAT team begins making its way into the school. Slowly, many of the trapped students are liberated, but the process is hampered by the discovery of dozens of explosive devices hidden throughout campus. 3.5 hours after the siege began, the SWAT team arrives at the small office where 60 terrified kids are still hiding.
The SWAT team came and banged on the door, and yeah, we didn't know who it was.
You just heard these footsteps coming, right?
Yeah.
As they start taking the kids out, the officers discover what many school boards are just now beginning to understand. You can't tell the innocent kids from the dangerous ones just by looking at them. So, worried that one of the shooters might have slipped in with the other kids, police treat everyone like a possible suspect.
They finally said, all right, come out slowly, put your hands on your head, and just get down low.
Joshua still agonizes over whether there was something he could have done to save his friends.
I wish I could have done something. I hunt, so, you know, I fairly, you know, I can shoot a gun. At that time, after they started shooting people, I wish I had my rifle, because I could, if I did, I could save a lot of lives.
When the SWAT team at last reaches the library, they make the horrifying discovery that 9 kids and 1 teacher have been executed. They also discover the bodies of Harris and Klebold, dead from self-inflicted wounds.
Both suspects are dead, and it appears that they died from self-inflicted gunshot wounds.
Slowly, the family members waiting outside begin to realize the magnitude of what's happened inside. As the injured are brought out and medevaced to area hospitals, parents wait to discover if their child is dead or alive. Inside the school, the police discover more hidden explosives, some of them rigged on the bodies of the 2 suspects. And late last night, another explosive device detonated inside the school. Police say they will now search the school for explosives, 1 backpack at a time.
And now Bill Ritter joins us live. Bill, what about the Shoals? Did they ever identify Isaiah's body?
Earlier tonight, Diane, authorities finally contacted Isaiah's parents and confirmed to them what they really already knew in their heart, that their 18-year-old son Isaiah had in fact been killed yesterday.
And the others who died, have they all been identified?
We understand that all of the families of the victims have been notified, the ones who died. It's been a tough 24 hours. You know, they knew, like Isaiah's families, in their heart that their children had died, but they had no confirmation from authorities. But some of their friends saw them die. Authorities just never got around to calling them.
All right, Bill, our thanks to you, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow, of course. Thanks again, Sam.
Diane, joining us now from Littleton is the superintendent of the Jefferson County School District, Jane Hammond. Ms. Hammond, thank you very much for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, the school is closed. Where will the students go for the rest of the semester?
Well, we have not been able to get into the building yet. It's a crime scene, and they are collecting evidence. And either late today, I haven't gotten word, or early tomorrow morning, we'll be able to go in and assess the damage and figure out whether we can make those repairs and get the students back in the school.
So it is possible, you think, that perhaps for the rest of the term they could come back to the school?
We really haven't been inside to assess the damage, so it would just be a guess at this point. I've heard that it is heavily damaged, and it's possible that we will not, but I do not know.
Ms. Hammond, what about security? Clearly it was not sufficient for this horror. Have you and the board begun to think about other schools in your district and what you might do in the future?
Well, we're going to be increasing security at all of our schools. This particular school does have security officers. It has a full-time police officer on campus, but it would be very difficult to prepare for this kind of tragedy that has caused this community to grieve.
Ms. Hammond, there were 2 officers, as we understand it, who traded fire at one point with the suspects, but then left the school. Do some people in the community feel that by leaving the school, this contributed to what happened?
I'm not aware of that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hammond. We appreciate your coming in tonight. When we come back, could this massacre have been prevented? Were the killers giving off warning signs that their parents and the school failed to pick up?
Feeling down, overwhelmed? Now, to help you lift your spirits and look on the bright side naturally, there's Quanterra Emotional Balance. I used to think all St. John's words were alike, but they're not. The extract in Quanterra was clinically proven effective by doctors, and research suggests it regulates neurotransmitters affecting emotional wellness. New Quanterra Emotional Balance. There is light at the end of the tunnel. If it's not clinically proven, it's not Quanterra.
is in the eye of the beholder. Is it the Chrysler Sebring LXI Coupe or the Chrysler Sebring Limited Convertible? Multi-valve V6, speed-sensitive steering, room for you and 3 friends, and a luxurious leather-trimmed interior. Now, the choice is yours. Get 1,000 cash allowance on the Sebring Coupe and on the Sebring Convertible. Chrysler, engineered to be great cars.
Well done, Bruce Lee, but those men were flabby and weak.
Oh, Karate Kid?
Kid, I'm 35. You lack focus. My master would teach you.
Arnold from Happy Days? Lipton Brisk Iced Tea. Where did you get that? Editing mistake in my favor. Brisk, baby! Only fool, fight man with Brisk.
Hate to tell you, but we're looking at a negative sales trend coupled with high overhead. Frankly, I'm worried about capital preservation. Let me put it this way. Look, we're just not meeting our goals. Tell you what, give me more eggs, I'll give you more corn. Otherwise, we may have to diversify.
Sometimes it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Kinko's, express yourself.
You're the perfect pair. Lasting love. This smile. What I've waited for. This will be.
Eat.
First time anyone just loved me.
Get together for delicious lobster and shrimp. Side by side for a short time and priced at just $12.99. The perfect combination for a pair like you. Escape to Red Lobster.
2020, now in its 20th anniversary year, winner of over 300 prestigious awards for excellence in broadcast journalism.
Tomorrow on Good Morning America, the Colorado school shooting, the moment of crisis. Eyewitnesses tell their stories. Charles Gibson and Antonio Mora are there live from Littleton, Colorado on tomorrow's Good Morning America.
What makes The View TV's ultimate chaperone? It's funny.
And what if brains were dynamite, he could not blow his nose.
Smart.
She's Miss Walters.
And unpredictable.
I don't wear underwear.
Watch the ultimate chaperone. The View. Weekdays on ABC Daytime.
Gold Records, a hit TV show, a blockbuster movie. What could be cooler? Starring with Diana Ross in an ABC premiere movie event.
I trusted you and you lied to me.
About discovering who you really are.
It's been very painful for me, too. Painful? You don't have any idea.
Diana Ross, Brandy, double platinum, ABC Sunday, May 16th.
It's important for kids to wash their hands after using the bathroom. But the first step, according to research from the Georgia-Pacific Health Smart Institute, is to use a strong, absorbent toilet paper like MD to help prevent accidental contamination. MD helps protect you from germs before they have a chance to reach your hands or anything else. This message brought to you by MD.
The word being used over and over again these past 2 days is senseless. But in fact, when you take another look, a close look, as Cynthia McFadden did, at the disturbing number of recent school shootings, an astonishing pattern of behavior, of missed warning signs, begins to emerge.
This is the day that the Lord has made.
They were towns most of the country had never heard of. God-fearing places like Pearl, Mississippi, Paducah, Kentucky, tranquil places like Jonesboro, Arkansas, safe places like Springfield, Oregon. But in each of these towns, in a blinding second, all of that changed. Now, the names of these towns have become hauntingly familiar. And yesterday, Littleton, Colorado was added to the macabre list.
I just keep thinking that this does not happen at our school. And that I'm going to wake up and this is going to be over. Because, God, not at Columbine, you know? It happens in some other school somewhere else. It doesn't happen here.
In all of these cases, people asked why. It seemed there was a senseless, gruesome pattern. All the shootings happened in schools. The shooters were all adolescent boys with a whole cache of weapons. And yet, questions remained. Was there something deeper, something that could have predicted the violence?
We want to believe that these events are unpredictable because then we have no duty to have predicted it.
Gavin DeBecker consults with the CIA and Supreme Court as one of America's leading experts on predicting violent behavior.
There are commonalities to these cases. 100% are Caucasian, 100% made a threat first, 100% felt rejected or outside the group, 100% talked about weapons and had access to weapons.
Most, if not all, of these kids showed signs that they were in trouble.
Psychiatrist Dr. Howard Spivak has studied adolescent violence for 15 years.
Poor peer relationships, isolation, withdrawal, loners, often the victims of bullying.
Warning signs clear in retrospect. In Pearl, Mississippi, prosecutors say Luke Woodham, a lonely misfit, and Grant Boyette, a brash outsider, had planned a takeover of this high school for over a year. A plan lots of kids knew about, but quickly dismissed.
He'd been picked on all his life, and there were several times where he said, you know, that one day people would regret picking on him, and one day people would regret underestimating him.
In Jonesboro, Arkansas, 11-year-old Andrew Golden and 14-year-old Mitchell Johnson had stolen a cache of weapons from a family member for their meticulously planned attack. Fellow students knew the boys were up to something.
Me and a friend were standing in the gym, and he came up to us and said, tomorrow you'll find out if you live or die.
Why didn't you tell anyone?
I think that he would, you know.
Dr. Harold Koplowitz, an expert in child and adolescent psychiatry, says that in all of the killings, there were warning signs that, if detected and treated, could have averted tragedy.
Doctor, how do you account for the fact that so often the neighbors, the friends say, oh, such a nice boy?
We always hear that things weren't so bad, and then the history comes out, and we find out that there was cruelty to animals, that when the child was a little bit older, he beat someone up in elementary school, and then in junior high school, he seemed to be attracted to a very strange group of people, or he started looking at very alternative music. The signs are there. The red flags were going up.
Listen to convicted killer Luke Woodham from Pearl, Mississippi.
I didn't feel like I really had any friends, no one I could really trust, so I kept everything inside. And, you know, finally life got to the point where it just wasn't worth living. But I wanted to die. I just wanted to kill myself every day when I woke up.
Most school shooters seem to have a great deal in common with Luke Woodham. Most are depressed, some are suicidal. A depressed, suicidal child is one thing. A gun can make him a lethal weapon.
People are seemingly reluctant to blame these things on guns. We want to identify all the other issues that are at play. But the fact is that guns bring permanence to hostility and anger that would otherwise be transitory.
Consider young Andrew Golden, seen here at age 6 with his Christmas present. A real gun, not a toy, a real gun with live ammunition. 5 years after these home movies were taken, he was convicted of murdering 4 classmates in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Or Kip Kinkle, the freckled 15-year-old from Springfield, Oregon, who went on a shooting spree, murdering his parents and a schoolmate. He was arrested carrying a .22 caliber rifle, a .38 caliber pistol, and a Glock semi-automatic handgun. His father had bought him.
He had not an obsession with guns, but he was into guns.
He always has to have a gun. I don't know if it would give him some kind of inner, you know, feeling that made him feel like he was complete.
And so they're basically saying in an unconscious way to themselves, I feel bad about myself, so I'm going to pick on you or hurt you or do something violent to you because that will make me feel better. It will make me feel in control, make me feel powerful.
Sadly, the signals missed in Jonesboro, Pearl, and Paducah were also missed in Littleton, including cold, calculated planning.
I think it's very troubling that they found the time and had the ability to plan this massacre, and no one noticed.
that something bad was going on.
There have been many red flags missed over the last 2 years. Perhaps, had they been seen, dozens of school children might still be alive tonight. One critical red flag that Gavin DeBecker hopes will be noted this time is that these episodes of school violence tend to have a copycat quality to them. Sometimes, he notes, incidents cluster in geographic areas.
As a person who predicts violent behavior, if I had to make a prediction today, I would be particularly alert to the area around Littleton and over the next 5 or 6 weeks, because students in those environments now are seeing all the time on television and in newspapers this way to resolve their problems.
These are not normal children. Normal children do not do this. Parents can be reassured that their children are not going to snap tomorrow and go bring a gun to school. But parents have to be aware that maybe their children have a problem that they're not paying attention to.
Luke Woodham will never be forgotten in Pearl, Mississippi for the day he destroyed a town's innocence, any more than Eric Harris or Dylan Klebold will be forgotten in Littleton, Colorado. But Woodham may also offer us a legacy of a different sort, an insight into a soul troubled enough to commit such violence. Hear what he wrote in his last will and testament. I do this to show society. Push us and we will push back. I suffered all of my life. No one ever truly loved me. No one ever truly cared about me.
Diane, we're also going to have to figure out anew, if we can, why these things are happening today when they didn't years ago. There's something different in society, perhaps the family, perhaps a lack of a sense of mission nationally, perhaps what they see on television and in the movies, but there's been a change.
And, of course, the increased availability of guns. But it's worth pointing out the Centers for Disease Control issued a report reminding everyone that less than 1% of all homicides among school-aged children take place on school grounds. So we keep that in mind for perspective, even as we search our souls tonight about what all of this says. And we'll be right back.
Songs and solace as folks in a Denver suburb try to make sense of a senseless crime. Good evening, I'm Kathy Marshall.
And I'm John Marlowe. Also at 11 tonight, Portland school officials aren't taking any chances. A middle school student is in trouble for threatening a teacher.
There is a rediscovery going on right now at Nissan as to who we are. And when you look into that well, you find some neat things. It's a company that loves cars. It's a company that gets it. When you love the process, that love gets into the product.
And now a programming note. Tomorrow night, ABC News will present a special primetime Nightline town meeting from Jonesboro, Arkansas, the site of a previous school shooting, a previous searing event. Lessons learned with Ted Koppel. Tomorrow night at 10, 9 Central, here on ABC. And that's our program for tonight. I'm Diane Sawyer. I'll see you in the morning on Good Morning America. We wish all of you a good night, and good night, Sam.
Good night, Diane, and not much sleep for you tonight. I'm Sam Donaldson. There'll be more on the Littleton School on Nightline on the massacre after your local news. Be sure to join us again next Wednesday evening for another edition of 2020 Wednesday.